Is glancing down at the crumpled box as he does. I can hear Jenna stirring a bit, so I gently push into Carl to hurry our trek back to the mansion. I glance back a few times. Last time I see Raven crouched over Jenna, mouth moving as he talks to her. As soon as we enter Carl's parents' bedroom, the ram leaves me to stand next to the bed.
You going to sleep?
Carl turns away from me and starts to walk around the room, looking at the walls, the lights, even under the bed. Maybe. I'm not really tired, though. Instead of sitting on the bed, I limp towards the balcony to look out the glass doors. I just barely catch a glimpse of Jenna and Raven moving towards the mansion, Jenna leaning on the husky for support. I watch them disappear underneath the balcony. Carl, I don't know what we're gonna do. I turn to look at him. Were you really going to hit her with the rock? Carl pauses, glancing at me.
No, I was gonna hit her arms. Make it harder for her to go after us again.
I frown, since I can't really remember if it looked that way. He seemed to point right towards her head. Either way, it's fucked. Thinking about having to incapacitate one of my best friends. Carl starts to open the drawers of the dresser before slamming them shut with a loud snap. Are you looking for something? Carl doesn't answer, instead pulling the drawers completely out of the dresser instead. Carl. What are you doing? More silence. Carl!
What?
Carl snaps at me. I shrink back for a moment, then glare. Don't yell at me! What happened out there? Carl turns back to the dresser, sticking his head inside the opening where the drawer once was. His horns clack around against the wood.
He tried to stab me. What else is there to know?
I sigh, looking down at my ankle. I'm startled at how swollen it is now, unrecognizable. I wonder if a sprain can be bad enough that it needs to be amputated. I try not to think about it and move to the bed, sitting down gingerly. Carl makes his way over to the bedside table next to me. I'm talking about the way you were acting, how you were laughing and stuff. Carl shrugs his shoulders, made vague by the way he seems to be wrestling the table out of the corner, looking behind it.
The whole thing's ridiculous, isn't it? Gotta lighten the mood with humor sometimes.
While she's trying to stab you? Another shock at remembering the attempted murder, though it's duller. Carl yanks the drawer away from the table violently. What are you doing?
Looking for bullshit notes. That's why we're here, isn't it?
I reach out and grab Carl's arm, at which he freezes and finally looks at me. I swallow, trying to think of how to phrase this. Carl, are you anymore?
Of course I'm me.
Ram pulls his arm away from my grasp. I shake my head. We know Jenna isn't, and I guess in a weird fucked up way she was gonna snap eventually, but Carl keeps rummaging around and I wonder if he's listening at all. And I could sort of tell you weren't either, but now I'm just having trouble seeing you at all anymore. Carl finally sets the drawer down, looking around the room. He wipes his hands off on his shirt, then slowly moves closer before sitting down next to me on the bed.
I'm still me. We're all just under a lot of pressure right now. You know? Dude?
I guess? It's strange. It's like he's someone who's trying to pretend to be Carl. The idea puts me on edge. I look away, thinking back on the attack. That newspaper clipping. It makes sense why that would set John off, right? Carl snorts.
I'm not surprised.
I told you earlier they want us to see the truth before we can leave. But wasn't that the truth? Carl doesn't say anything. I shake my head. Unless it's not. I don't know. Carl remains silent. I guess it was stupid to think James would help me. At this point, I'm equally suspicious of the two of them. I lay back on the bed, rubbing my eyes. I thought that letting James help us would lead us to the way out of here, but now... It feels like I've just lost a friend. Carl's hand suddenly comes to rest on my shoulder.
You're just upset. You're just upset that we didn't go all the way earlier?
Huh? I furrow my brow. That's the furthest thing from my mind right now. But the ram turns to me on the bed, a coy smile on his face. What are you talking about? Carl rolls over on the bed to the other side, then reaches out to rub my arm again. What are you doing? I watch him rubbing through the fur on my arm.
Picking up where we left off.
Carl runs his hand under my shirt before pushing the fabric up to expose my torso. I can't help but react to the touch. Despite what just happened not 20 minutes ago, despite the way Carl's acting, despite that it's not Carl, or is it? Something seems to be more familiar about him now. My urges are made all the worse as the ram runs his hand down my chest, towards the waistband of my pants. I don't know if this is a good idea right now. I reach up to push my shirt back down.
You sure? Not even a hand job?
Carl pauses with his hand on my stomach, gently moving his fingers around in the fur. The bulge in my pants is obvious. We should be thinking of a way to escape. Still, I stare at the hand on my body.
Well, we're not going anywhere in the meantime. Besides, didn't we come here to rest? Might as well get one out while you can.
I take back what I said about familiarity. Carl's unusually confident, weirdly seductive, and it has my heart beating fast.
Might help you get to sleep.
Something feels strange in the room, a low, surreal drone that makes it feel like I'm in a dream. My movements feel numb, like they're not my own. My urges are not my own. It feels old and overpowering. This feeling, and Carl seems to be radiating it. At this point, I don't really know what's normal, or okay, or basically what reality is anymore. But I do know that my body wants this. Maybe real quick. Carl presses his lips to the side of my face, then lower towards my neck. At the same time, his hand goes back to my shirt that I lowered to the top of my stomach and pushes it all the way up over my face. With just a moment of hesitation, I raise my arms up so he can completely get rid of the shirt. Carl pauses, looking over my torso again.
You're in shape.
I don't say anything. The way he's scanning his eyes over my body makes my heart skip a beat. I look towards the door, wondering if maybe I should check if there's a lock. Not only because Raven coming in and seeing what we're up to at a time like this would be bad, but also because Jenna's seeing this. The state of mind she's in would be a disaster. How fucking immature I am that I'm doing this right now. Carl, I don't know if this is a good idea right now. What if Raven or...
What? You know Raven snuck off in the cabin, beat one out? You deserve this.
I blush.
I'm just helping you out.
I sigh and don't say anything as Carl starts kissing my neck, causing my cock to twitch a bit. Carl chuckles into my fur, making me shiver.
Pull your pants down and I'll help you out.
Fuck it. I reach down and shove my pants and boxers down to my thighs, exposing my length to the cool air. A musky smell reaches my nose and I blush at the thought of Carl smelling it. I didn't exactly have much time to bathe over the past day or two. Ram doesn't seem to mind as his hand immediately goes to my cock. The ram doesn't seem to mind as his hand immediately goes to my cock, grabbing it up into his huge hand. It envelops almost the entire thing, and I gasp out in surprise, almost groaning at how sensitive I am.
You're pent up, huh?
He gives me a squeeze before pumping a few times. Deep, slow ones that push my ass and balls into the bed before I practically arch out into the upstroke. I gasp again, my eyes wide. I've never felt this much pleasure from just a hand job before. Carl laughs again at my expression.
Little sensitive? Here.
Carl pushes me over onto my side, moving closer to spoon me as he continues to stroke my length. I try to keep quiet, groaning softly with every pump. I've never been jerked off like this. With each downstroke, the ram presses his crotch into my rear, forcing me into his hand. Forcing me into his hand. I feel his own length against me, especially once he pushes my tail out of the way. His free hand goes to my rear, and for a moment I worry he's going in with a finger. Wait, I don't want to do that. Carl nibbles my ear.
Alright.
It's okay if you don't want to. I'm Carl's great ancestor, and totally a serial killer. Do you really think I care about what you want?
I'm the big, bad, perverted ram.
Yeah. I'm gonna ram all right.
Team Ramrod.
You just hear this loud, like, impact sound, and then Chase is just embedded in the wall.
Pent up ram from centuries of pent up.
Oh god, he's just like he's like embedded in the wall, just covered in white. He's just plastered into the wall.
It just immediately dries and he's glued to the wall.
Carl's just smoking a cigarette. Like I just went straight to Looney Tunes logic. Alright. His hand instead feels up my ass, squeezing gently before sliding under me to come up around my chest. He gives me another enthusiastic stroke, squeezing my balls against my thighs before squeezing up. And just like that sends me over the edge. It lasted barely even a minute. I tense and stifle a whimper as I start to buck my hips into Carl's hand. Sensing this, Carl speeds up the pace, and soon I'm trying not to let out otter squeaks as I writhe against the ram. Carl squeezes me tight, nibbling my ear before suddenly biting it hard. I wince in pain, chills going up and down my spine as the ram aims my spurts over the side of the bed. I spasm over and over until finally I slump down against the bed, gasping for breath. Carl chuckles again, giving me a few more strokes that send me into another spasm. Stop! Post-orgasm torture hurts. No. I nudge his hand away before the ram finally pulls it back. I open my eyes and see that not too much has gotten on the bed. There are several white streaks glistening on the hardwood floor below, though. I rub my ear, twitching. What was that?
You came.
Carl is sitting up now, dumping one of the several pillows behind us from the pillowcase. You bit my ear. I pull my hand away and see that it's not bleeding somehow. Carl shrugs.
Oh yeah. Some people like that. Guess you don't?
No. I frown at how nonchalant the ram is. I mean, it was really hard. Carl wipes his hand off on the pillowcase, then tosses it over to me.
Sorry. I won't do it next time.
Next time. I take the pillowcase and rub my dick with it, along with the little bit that got on the covers.
Alright, I'm tired. I'm gonna lay down too.
I'm a little put off. Instead of the primal urges I'd felt before, I feel empty, almost guilty at the thought of what we'd just done. I'm reminded that Jenna and Raven are just a few floors below us. I should honestly go down and see how they're doing, but I can't really do that with Carl here. I look over my shoulder and see Carl laying on his back, eyes closed. He might already be asleep before I've even pulled up my pants. It's a little bit odd that he's been not trying to spoon me again like last time. I guess it's fine, since I'm not really in the mood to be spooned. I give my dick a few wipes before I drop the pillowcase onto the floor next to the mess that's already there. I pull up my pants, wanting to take a shower, but too exhausted to check the bathroom for running water. I lay on my side, idly wondering if maybe I should go downstairs since Carl seems to be asleep, but... A familiar cackle far in the distance pulls me out of my sleep. I open my eyes to a dark room, seeing the faint outline of the doorway. Is it nighttime? Does time move in this place? I sit up in the bed, looking around. It's dark, but I can see the outlines of the dresser and the bedside table, along with the empty bed I'm in. Where's Carl? I swing my legs off the bed and feel lush, fuzzy carpet. My heart leaps in my chest. Am I back? I don't want to get my hopes up because of what happened last time, but this place looks exactly like Carl's parents' room. I reach out to the lamp next to me and feel around for a switch, but it illuminates the moment I touch it. That's when I see the outline of a small person in the hall. I jump, eyes staring out into the dark hallway. A small fox stares back. I have enough time to see the overalls, a white shirt, before suddenly he turns and vanishes into the dark. I hear the patter of his footsteps down the hall, then down the stairs before it fades off into silence. I'm backed up against the headboard, heart hammering in my chest, staring at the dark rectangle. Quickly glancing around the room again, I don't see Carl anywhere. Slowly, I push myself out of the bed and pat around the room, keeping an eye on the door in case the fox comes back. I glance out the glass doors as I pass them to the dark balcony. I can't see anything, though I do see specks of light down in the town. From what I can see, it looks normal as well. Swallowing loudly, I move towards the hallway. Something seems to be pushing me forward, towards the darkness. I look into the hallway, down towards the stairs, but it's completely black. Moving my hand up and down the wall for a light switch, I hit one and I'm almost blinded by the bright light that shines down on me. I shield my eyes as I force myself to watch the stairs, but again, I see nothing. Soloing again, I force myself forward, towards the stairs and finally down the stairs. I try not to blink, eyes wide, watching for the little fox. I don't have my hopes up that this is real anymore. After seeing the fox boy, I know I'm still not in reality, at least not all the way. Well, maybe I am back. But those things from the other side have crossed over a bit, and that's what I saw. I'm in the kitchen when I suddenly see a set of horns in the darkness, moving towards the stairs before they disappear. Carl? I hurry towards the stairs, again, feeling again along the walls for a light switch. I hear clopping at the bottom, along with voice, small childlike voices. Stumbling down the stairs, I call out again. Carl? Jenna? Raven? I start to wonder if I've left the other three somehow. Am I alone here? Did we get separated? Soon I'm running through the basement hall, towards the sound of voices. I'm at the door to the crawl space, and without hesitation I unlatch the door and throw it open, to find that same small fox. I see now that he's just a boy, maybe 8 or 9 years old, in old-fashioned clothes. He stares at me, stoic and unmoving. I stare back in silence. Then I see something. 2 towering horns materialize above the boy, and I see Carl's face. Then his arms close around the fox's throat, and the boy opens his mouth to scream. I jolt awake on Carl's parents' bed. I'm back. It's bright again, and I look around to see the hardwood floor, the bunched-up pillowcases on the bedside table. But Carl's not there, and they're still screaming.
Stop! Help! Help! Stop!
The sound is distant, coming from downstairs. My body is filled with adrenaline, both from the dream and from the scream that I suddenly realize is very real. I jump off the bed and immediately go down to my knees as my ankle screams in agony. I have no choice, though, and I force myself to my feet, half hopping, half limping my way to and through the hallway. It's easier now that I've got walls and rails that I can half support myself on. My heart thuds in my chest. I'm still bleary and confused from being asleep just 30 seconds ago. What I do know is that I have to help Raven and probably Jenna too. I don't have time to dwell on the realization that I've made a stupid mistake by going to sleep and not keeping an eye on Carl.
No! No! No!
Stumbling through the kitchen, I hear the screams coming from down the flight of stairs to the basement before being cut off suddenly. I feel my heart sink as I limp and jump to the stairs, practically falling down the stairs to the basement below. I squint down the hall, unable to see clearly in the darkness. What I do get is a vague sense of movement in the dark to the left. I move blindly in that direction, not sure what I'm going to find or what I'm going to do. Carl? I feel along the wall, then I feel nothing as I find a doorway. Reaching out for a light switch, I flip it on and see that I'm in the weight room. There's blood on the floor. I stare around in horror at the 3 big splotches, and as I stare at them, I think I even see them spreading. I go down to my knees, not even feeling my ankle at this point. I stare hard at the floor, looking around but not seeing anyone. Jenna? Raven? I call out their names in a hushed whisper. Footsteps. I'm hit harder than I've ever been hit in my life. The cold concrete of the ground meets my face as my limbs go out from underneath me. The feeling of rough, dirty ground against my face makes me crinkle my nose. I try to reach up and brush at it, but my hands don't come up. My shoulders ached horribly, and so do my knees. Not to mention my ankle, which almost feels numb at this point. I slowly crack open my eyes, seeing nothing but dirt. Something has my limbs tied, and I'm twisted painfully into some sort of hog tie, my forearms stuck to my ankles. A bright light shines on me, almost blinding with how powerful it is. I can hear it droning on, a fluorescent buzz that tickles at the nape of my neck. I hear some faint clopping sounds, along with the shifting of heavy boxes. I try to keep quiet as I look around, unsure where I am or who it is that's near me. While it's hard to see through the bright white lights, I can make out stacks of boxes around me. Plastic bins, I think, like what Carl has in his crawl space. Is that where I am? I'm not sure because behind the bins are large wooden beams set against packed earth. Reminds me of the mines I saw in pictures during my research. The ceiling is way too high to be the crawl space as well. All the while I can hear little giggles, whispers, and shushing sounds. There are patters of little feet underneath the louder clops. Slowly, I remember what had happened earlier. The splatters of blood, the footsteps behind me. I look up towards the sound of clopping and see the big form of a ram shifting boxes around, throwing lids aside. Carl? It sort of looks like him, but he seems bigger and more shaggy. I shift my gaze into the darker corners of the room we're in, and I gasp to see a pair of eyes staring at me from the darkness. A little fox, and what looks like a small grin below the eyes, just barely visible. The sound of shifting bins stops, and I hear the clopping coming closer to me.
You awake, boy?
I flinch, but pretend to be asleep anyway. Not moving until the ram suddenly crouches by my head, causing me to cringe again. He feels around my body, checking the bindings before patting me on the face.
I know you're awake, but it does not matter now.
The ram stands up and starts moving away. Wait! I wince, not really sure if that had been a good idea. Either way, he stops and turns back to me. I look up at the ram, though it's hard with the way he's outlined in an incredibly bright light. It could actually be that light, but he definitely looks different, much bigger. His horns are wider and more grown out.
What?
His voice is different, too. Deeper, more resonant. This isn't Carl anymore, but I guess I already knew that. What happened? My voice sounds tiny and weak in comparison to the big ram.
What do you mean? What happened?
Carl, James, sets back to moving around bins, opening lids, tossing stuff out. Where's Raven and Jenna?
You mean John?
I don't say anything in response to that, still trying to look around. I keep catching glimpses of tiny feet and pairs of eyes just on the fringes of the dark nothingness. Their whispers and small giggles are a constant undertone.
He's gone.
I turn my attention back to the ram. What do you mean?
I mean what I say, Otter.
I swallow my fear, trying to let the numbness of my ankle take over the rest of my body. Where did he go? James chuckles.
I don't know. I used the knife and...
The ram makes waggly motions with his fingers above his horns.
gone.
James shrugs his big shoulders. How? The ram shakes his head again.
I know as much of this place as you, Otter.
What about Raven?
Who?
The dog. The husky. The girl shrugs again.
Same thing.
Silence drags on as the ram offers nothing else, turning back to his work. I work my hands around a bit, feeling a good deal of give in the bindings. They don't really feel like any sort of rope, though. More like clothes. I close my eyes, trying not to let the overpowering fear take over. Carl? Carl, are you there? No response. Another giggle to my right draws my attention. I see another fox, even smaller than the first one. He dashes past the lights, his figure blotting it out for just a moment. I hear a slap and then a snarl from James.
Little shits!
I watch as the fox disappears into the darkness. I stare for a while before quietly venturing another question. Who are they? Another pair of eyes dances around behind the light. James doesn't respond. I remember the newspaper clippings about the missing boys, the serial killer.
Well, can't find all of them, but this is probably enough.
I hear some rustling, then a huge jumble of thuds and clattering sounds as James dumps a bin onto the dirt-covered ground. The round stomps off, disappearing behind the light. Things go quiet for a moment, aside from the distant clopping of the ram's footsteps. Then the whispering... Yeah, his hoof steps. Then the whispering starts up again, and I feel several pairs of eyes on me. First one, then two, then 5 tiny figures appear in front of the light. I can hear more behind me. Who are you? Please. I try to cringe into a tight ball, but the bindings above have me terribly exposed. They're dressed in old-fashioned clothes, overalls, denim. Some are shirtless. Maybe it's Masetta. What do you want? I close my eyes, waiting, wonder if maybe they'll kill me. It would probably be for the best. I'm tired of this nightmare. Fingers start poking at my wrists. Hey! I try to jerk away, and as I do, my left hand slips out of the bindings. I pause, then a loud bang comes from towards the light, and the small figures all disappear with a rush of wind.
Goddamn little shits!
James mutters from behind the light. I hear the sound of sloshing liquid inside a large container. As discreetly as I can, I start to try to work at my other hand. Try to work my other hand around, using my free one to loosen up the bindings. It's definitely clothes, and they're poorly tied together. The sloshing sounds get a bit louder as James steps in front of the floodlight. Then he tips the container he's holding upside down, and I see a long nozzle, lights shining through the translucent neck. I realize what it is as I hear liquid spattering onto the pile James has made. The smell of gasoline hits my nose as I start to panic. Carl? Carl, wait, stop! My other hand pops free as I start to writhe around, but it's my legs that I need to get me out of here. Carl, James, please, don't do this. You can let me go first? James moves away from the pile to pour the gas on the other bins. Why are you doing this to me? He flashes me a grin before continuing to splash gas onto all the bins, walking in a circle around me.
Getting rid of evidence. You're part of the evidence.
The whispers get more excited, the children running back and forth in front of the floodlight.
I would have stabbed you earlier, but I lost it in that damn husky when I put it through his gut.
James glances back at me.
This is what happens when you meddle.
Once Carl completes the circle of the bins, he disappears behind the floodlight again. At this point, I start to pull at the bindings wildly, tugging at my ankles and internally screaming at every tug on my injury. This time, the boxes don't approach. They just watch from the darkness. Help me. I sob through clenched teeth at them, but they don't move. I stop struggling, instead trying to feel through the bindings, tugging here and there, trying to loosen something. Finally, I start to feel the knots shift a bit. My right leg comes free. The whispers crescendo, along with some giggling sounds. I hear James coming back, and I try to keep twisted up in my feigned hog-tie position. A glow appears in the darkness, and I see James step in front of the floodlights with a lighter in his hand.
Sorry, Otter, but I need to thank you and your friends for finally bringing this all to a close.
The ram puts his free hand to his chest.
I really thought I would spend a lot longer worrying about this all getting out, but now
He raises the lighter.
I can finally put this to an end.
A small figure runs behind the lights, and with a loud smack, the lighter goes flying. It's flung in my direction, and, thankfully, it goes out as it flies through the air, then skitters on the dirt towards me. I drop the facade and uncurl, snatching the lighter up and struggling to stand. I'm just in time to see a huge ram charging me. His horns down, aimed straight at my chest. I jump to the side, but get clipped by the elbow, sending me and the lighter spinning through the air. James doesn't even go for me, instead disappearing into the dark after the lighter. I don't wait to see how it turns out, rushing towards the exit to the mine. I'm just a few feet away from the exit when I hear a huge whooshing sound, and wind seems to rush from the exit behind, almost blowing me back. Breath is sucked from my lungs, and I go down to my knees, covering my head as it feels like all my fur is going to be burned off. I look behind me at the blinding fire. Carl! I cover my mouth and nose, trying to breathe, but the heat beats me back like a physical force. And now, everything is real. I'm in the crawl space, the massive beams are gone, the ceiling is lower, and there's no more mine. I'm back up to the doorway, getting blasted with smoke. Carl! I scream as loud as I can. All the while I'm still moving back. And then I see the familiar horns and Carl appears from the smoke and flames, singed but alive. He charges at me, and I see rage in his eyes. I might be back in the mansion, but Carl isn't. I back away into the basement, out of the crawl space, ducking low as the smoke billows over me. It looks like Carl's coming after me, but just as he reaches out, tiny little paws grasp around his waist, his chest, and his face, pulling him back into the crawl space. Carl reaches out, latching onto the doorframe, snarling with rage. His eyes are wide, spittle flying from his mouth as he fights to pull himself from the grasp of the small foxes. I watch and only hesitate for a moment before I reach out to grasp one of Carl's hands. He may be possessed. He may have tried to kill me, but my friend is still in there somewhere. There's no way in hell I'm willingly letting him burn to death. I lean back, pulling the ram as hard as I can, getting a face full of smoke as I stand to get some leverage. Carl, or James, grunts and growls as if unsure what to do. Little hands hold firm, though, pulling back into the flaming pit behind the ram. I get weak, my lungs screaming in the smoky air, feeling my limbs starting to give out. And then something gives, but it's Carl. The hands pull him through, and something large and transparent gets pulled out. It flies back with a howl, and Carl flies forward into me. The door goes closed with a snap. I fall back with a crunch, my already hazy mind almost blacking out as the ram falls on top of me. The following events are a blur to me. I remember seeing Carl staring down at me, yelling my name. I remember a blind stumble through smoke. A dark basement, crumbling stairs, and 2 sets of bloody footprints through the kitchen and out into the night. We follow them. And then, sitting in the desert, my head in Carl's lap. I watch his eyes glitter in the dancing firelight. His eyes are blank and far away. I reach up to touch his face, say thanks somehow. He doesn't look down. His eyes stay empty. Carl has extreme PTSD for the rest of his life, and eventually throws himself into an oven.
Wow, this is an ending I have not seen before. Because I chose the other way, like when it was fight James or let him help. I chose fight him.
I mean,
And it had a very different ending. Like it had like a good ending that you could have or a bad ending. And I guess if you let him have it, there's just only the bad ending.
yeah, earlier in the route, like, James was actively trying to kill us. Was actively trying to kill Chase. Just full stop. He was just like, die, and like, seriously just flat out trying to kill him. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's fucking nuts, man. That is way crazy.
Alright, well, while the credits play, I'm gonna go take a leak.
Yeah, me too.
Alright, so we know that
So-
John is a serial killer. And that
Well-
he framed...
well, wait.
No,
Is John-
James.
or
James
James
is the
is a
serial
serial
killer. And
framed
John
John.
took the fall.
So yeah, that's really crazy. Now I figured, like, when I started doing Echo, that if you chose different things towards towards the middle and beginning of the routes, it would have, like, it could lead to different things. But it's kind of like, but most of the decisions seem like they would just be kind of small in nature. Like, with, like, we're doing TJ's route, and it comes to, you, like, give TJ a push or something, and it's just like, you see, like, this funny little thing. It's just like, you murder him, and then it's like, you don't actually do that. But this, it actually is, you do the whole, like, let James help Carl, and it turns out it just goes to a completely different ending.
Mm-hmm.
Because I kept expecting to see a different scene play out where they go around they go to the corpse of John hanging in the tree, or the fox hanging in the tree. I don't know if it's John or not. I think it is. And then it goes to Jenna trying to kill Carl, and Carl is, like, trying to fend her off, and then you have a choice to make of, like, either push or grab Jenna, and depending on what you do, you could either be killed, or you have, like, this good end where you both go off, but where you save Jenna, Raven takes her away, and Carl kind of stumbles off into the desert, and then you both kind of go somewhere else. So
Yeah.
it's interesting that one decision of let James help or don't makes it so different that it's a completely different ending.
Yep.
That's
And
only a bad.